SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning to you. Welcome to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here. As we start the month of December, I'm not ready. I'm sorry. Mentally, I'm still back, in June at this point. That's just the way I work. On the bright side, it is December 1st, which means it's only about 24 days until I start my Christmas shopping. Joining us over in the booth, as always, we've got Rhino. How are you this morning, sir?
Oh, not too terribly bad. About yourself?
Not bad at all. Did you have any snow yesterday?
No.
We had snow flurries down here in southwest Mississippi.
Really?
And into southeast Louisiana. I mean, they were very light. Nothing would stick. It wasn't nearly cold enough, but a bunch of people got videos of it falling. And there were quite a few flurries as far south as St. Francisville, Louisiana, reported and recorded. That was late yesterday afternoon and last night, right after the sun set. Did you even hear a hint that we might possibly maybe see any type of frozen precipitation anywhere in any forecast? I didn't.
Not over the weekend. I saw where there was like a 15 to 30% chance of freezing rain up in DeSoto County. I think it was either today or tomorrow, the last I checked. But that was the only wintry precipitation I saw on the weather forecast.
Probably today, because, we have that front that's moving through. And down here, south part of the state, it's going to be wet all day. And especially later this afternoon, about the middle portion of the southern half of the state is going to get a lot of rain today. So make sure you got your floaties inflated and you put them on your pets. When you take them out in the yard, you could have trouble finding where they went if it rains enough. And apparently, possibly some snow flurries. I don't know. I was not expecting that. I was not looking for that. And yet, here we are. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll keep you up to date. There's only one story that everybody's been talking about for the last week in Mississippi. Next hour, we've got our buddy Michael Borkey from SportsTalk on to talk about it. Lane Kiffin. Bye, Lane. Apparently the team was, how would you put it, Rhino, irate at his decision?
Yeah, that was some of the reporting, that there were certain players trying to find him, and he was hiding out and wouldn't talk to him. And that is one problem with this whole situation, is there's a whole lot of scuttlebutt and not a whole lot verified.
But to me, the whole Lane Kiffin thing, and we'll get more into the details next hour with Borkey, to me, it is representative of how we deal with everything right now. If you went to every major news source and blocked and deleted every story that mentions unnamed sources and people in the know tell us, there would be nothing there. That's everything now is scuttlebutt, as you put it. Rumor. We have become a rumor economy. Everybody runs their mouth and tries to lengthen their nose to make sure it's able to be stuck into everybody else's business, even if you don't know what you're talking about. It's not a defense of Lane Kiffin. It's not a criticism of Lane Kiffin. I'm just saying, you pointed it out perfectly. There has been so much scuttlebutt, and this person said this, and this person said we heard this, and that person said we heard this. We have lost our ability to discern the trustworthiness of sources, I think, in life in general right now. Sources said, who are they? If they can't step forward and tell us themselves, why are we supposed to listen to secondhand knowledge? We're playing an entire nonstop 24/7 game of telephone with everything, especially in politics. The whole thing with Hegseth going on right now. Perfect example. Somebody told somebody else that Pete Hegseth told them to shoot the boat twice. Explain the chain of evidence there for any potential trial. How does that work? He says, I never said that. Okay? It's now officially a he said, they said case, and we're done, right? Am I missing something?
No, it's pretty much a textbook definition of hearsay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, when you get to that person 2 or 3 times removed from the source, I've told this story before, and I know everybody is familiar with this. My mom taught 4th grade for 30 years. And one of the things she did right at the beginning of the school year, they would play the telephone game. She'd lean down and whisper something at the kid on one side of the room in the front chair, whisper it in their ear, and then tell them to turn around and whisper it to the next kid. By the time it got to the other side of her classroom of about 30 kids, it was a completely different message from what she had whispered into the first one's ear. You cannot trust people passing things around orally. And yet we do. And we keep doing it. And we keep leaning into it. And we built this whole world around the idea of, well, we don't care what anybody tells us about who may or may not have said this or whether or not it's true. We have this information. Click here. I think that's doing us more harm than anything right now.
Well, that and the you can tell the people that at least have some training in journalistic integrity. I don't think they have much integrity themselves, but they've got the training, because they would begin their entire spiel about how it's a war crime with if reports are true, or if this is true. And then they would give their opinion, and then they would go into their diatribe, because they know deep down they're full of it. But they don't want the people that read their crap to know that they deep down know they're full of it.
Yeah. Well, you never self-own when you're in the national media. That's a no-no. You have a meeting after the show if you do that. But we have to figure out a way to break free from this. And I think, just as you pointed out, and that's what started this whole conversation, that has been on full display in the whole Lane Kiffin nonsense over the last week and a half. I have heard reputable sources that said he was staying. I heard reputable sources that said he was leaving. I heard reputable sources that said that this person that knew a guy that was on the team told them that they heard their friend say, and I'm like, what are we even doing? I think part of the problem is, as the public in general, well, they keep doing this stuff to get clicks, and they keep getting clicks, so why would they stop? It's fulfilling its function for them. So, stop clicking on the clickbait. That's step one, I think. I just don't know if we have the moral or emotional fortitude to pull that one off, Rhino.
Well, it doesn't help that about a third, and that's being kind, of the clickbait comes from people who are claiming to be one thing when in fact they are another. And what I'm talking about is the patriotic MAGA account that's actually based somewhere in Punjabi.
Yes.
Or the I'm an American, I'm a blue dot in a dark red puddle that's based somewhere in Bangladesh. And you have all of these people that are clickbaiting and engagement baiting and rage baiting for invisible internet cool points and a few dollars of ad money.
Yeah.
And they're coming from places where that few dollars is actually worth it to them to do it, which is why I think it would be in our best interest to have social media platforms allow you to filter crap from places where people are full of crap.
It's been amazing to watch the turmoil after X enabled that feature, and now you see where all the accounts are based from if you go to their profile. Oh, some happy surprises. We can talk about that more in just a minute. And the word of the year, which Rhino just used in a sentence. He's ahead of the game on this Monday on Middays. Keep it here.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi Middays live in the Element Wealth Studios on this Monday morning. Right before the break, Rhino used the new Oxford University Press Word of the Year, and that's why it's the Word of the Year, because that's the topic we were just talking about. It's everywhere. The Word of the Year, rage bait. They officially selected that as the word of the year because that's apparently how we operate in everything now. Everyone gets worked up over everything everywhere. And Rhino, you pointed it out and you made a very good point. This was perfectly illustrated. That we've got a lot of people who aren't in America who are in here continuously stirring the pot to keep people upset and aggravated to get $10.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of exceedingly ignorant Americans who put their opinion, no matter how stupid it is, on the internet for all the world to see and then get upset when people disagree with them. But there are far too many foreigners having an impact on Americans' day-to-day lives with abject BS.
Well, and here's the thing. When you have one of those accounts that's located in, as you said, Bangladesh, Punjab, wherever, and they're weighing in online on something like, I don't know, the Pete Hegseth thing, or anything going on in American politics. I don't care if they're for it or against it. That's foreign interference in American politics, isn't it? I mean, that's almost literally the definition, I would think. But good luck going to get them. That's the problem we have right now with the decentralized world. We're not equipped for it. I said something a few weeks ago on mornings. As you know, I'm in the chair for mornings every Friday morning while Richard has his spa day. That's a joke. Richard's got a lot going on Fridays, most Fridays. I said something, and I have probably gotten more comments about that one thing I said than the second place comment I've made. Part of our problem, and this is getting worse, stupid people are outbreeding smart people. stupid people are having 5 kids when smart people have 1 because smart people are doing the math and know they can't afford it. And as a result, humanity's IQ continues to drop. I welcome you poking holes in that, Rhino. Go right ahead. That's my working theory right now.
Well, I mean, that's been a working theory since Mike Judge came out with the movie Idiocracy. That was the whole intro to that film, was the wealthy, elite, smart people were talking about putting off having children until they could better afford it or were in a better place in life. And Bubba in the trailer's got 16 with 17 on the way.
Yep. And there's a lot of truth in that. I'm sorry. I've noticed, by the way, when I say that, and I've gotten comments on both for and against that when I first said it, the smart people never say I'm talking stupid. I've noticed. And, of course, that's a subjective judgment of who's smart and who's not. But that's still the problem, I think. A big part of it anyway. We're hearing from too many people who don't have anything to share, but we treat them as if they do. And that's never a good place to be, I'm afraid. Here's a perfect example, Rhino. I'm sure you saw the news. Wade Creekmore passed away, 91. Smart guy. And most people don't realize he was one of the co-founders of Cellular South, which became C Spire. Very smart guy from right down here in southwest Mississippi. So many people don't realize that got started in Franklin County, over in Meadville. He was the manager of the Franklin Telephone Company, and then went off and he and his brother co-founded Cellular South, and it became C Spire. This enormous, fantastic company. Smart guy. How much harder would it be now for somebody to start at humble beginnings like that and grow a business? It's got to be harder now than it was in Mr. Creekmore's days, because you got so many more people immediately ready, willing, and able to run up and explain to you why you're being stupid, and that'll never work. A lot of people always thought it, but they kept it to themselves. You maybe out of every 20 people that held those opinions, you might hear from one of them. Now you hear from all 20, and they talk a few more people into joining them. That is not to take away from what Mr. Creekmore did. He and his brother did a fantastic thing and built this enormous thing out of nothing. Like I said, he was the manager of the Franklin Telephone Company. Franklin County, not an enormous county, Rhino. We don't have 150,000 people in Franklin County. Almost the definition of humble beginnings leading to something great. Do you think it's harder to build something great from nothing now than it was 30, 40 years ago?
Yes and no, because yes, like you said, there are more societal hurdles, more people willing to poo-poo the idea or even try to sabotage it for their own self-fulfillment or for invisible internet cool points. But you also have much easier access to information that would have been a headache at best to get your hands on to get the ball rolling, whether that be regulations or prototyping or, any number of things that go into getting a startup off the ground. It feels like there's an entire almost cottage industry around entrepreneurship that wasn't around back then. that wasn't there to help guide you along the path. So it's a bit of both. You do have hurdles, you do have potential heartaches in your way, but you also have more help than you ever did.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You got more positives, but I think a lot more negatives as well. And it's, I don't know, to me, in the balance, despite the fact that you're talking about a lot of those things came about because of the people in the generation that, for example, Mr. Creekmore was in, built C Spire from relatively, a ball of twine and 2 tin cans, and then went from there and developed a lot of innovations along the way. And those are helping a lot of people, that entire group. But a lot of days feel like we've lost our way as a species almost at this point. And I'm just afraid it's going to take a lot of hard times before we get to better times. Now, I say that. Did you see the report? Did you see the numbers from Black Friday?
No, I didn't.
Sales were up 10% over last year. Now, that, number one, you couple in the fact that, I don't know if you saw this, the Democrats had this whole thing where they were going to boycott Black Friday and teach them a lesson and show them that we are important and our voice matters. So sales only went up 10% over last year, set a record. Good job. Yes, you're relevant. Thank you. However, there's one aspect of that you got to know that to understand what was going on. Yes, sales went up dollar-wise. Actual number of sales and traffic in stores down. Bought less stuff that cost more, which means it's a smaller sliver of the population that did Black Friday shopping responsible for that huge increase in money. Just wanted to point out that interesting dichotomy. Here on Middays, when we come back, Captain Criss Turnipseed is going to tell us how bad you were over the holiday weekend with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. We'll talk to the captain next. Keep it here.
From theseabrook.com. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back to the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk Mississippi Middays. Dave Hughes in the chair, and joining us now, Captain Criss Turnipseed with the you got to be tired after this weekend. You got to be tired, Cap.
Well, I mean, it's just round one. We got to make it out here. We still got another big one coming up here in a few weeks. So no sense of getting tired now. You got to wait till after the new year to rest. So,
well, give us the official Mississippi Highway Patrol report. How'd we do this weekend?
Well, I've been working on some stats and stuff this morning. I have not got citations or anything yet. They've changed the system that you get into, so you had to change credentials and log in and stuff. So I've been working on that. I was desperately trying to get it prior to this interview, but time ran out on me, so here I am. But I do know we had about 243 crashes over our travel period, which is up a little bit from the last one, with 2 of those crashes being fatal. So we usually judge everything by the number of crashes. That's how you can really tell how much traffic was out there. So I would say, just from my observation and my experience doing this, that we had a pretty substantial travel holiday, with the ball game going on and then the holiday itself. I mean, it was you got Black Friday in there, everybody's shopping on Friday, and then, they extended these Black Fridays out through Saturday and Sunday now. So there's not really a Black Friday anymore. Everybody's trying to take advantage of those sales. So it was a busy weekend. So this is a telltale of what Christmas is going to be like. We're going to have to strap up and get ready because, yes, it looks like 2025 is going to be a busy holiday travel year. Everybody's getting out and going and seeing and doing.
Well, and you mentioned we had two vehicular fatalities over the holiday period. Do you know, and you might not know this off the top of your head, but do you know how that compares to last Thanksgiving? Is that better? Is it worse?
I think it's the same. It's the same. I think we had, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure about 99.9% sure that we had 2 last year and 2 this year. But the crashes were higher, but the fatalities were the same. So it was in I think it was in the high 100s last year. I can pull the numbers up, but I'm talking to you on this computer here, and I don't want to mess up our connection. But it was in the high 100s. So it wasn't, like double or anything last year as far as crashes, but it was more this year as far as crashes go versus last year.
I'm going to use the old media rule of never ask a question you don't think you already know the answer to. When I ask you this, what's the number one thing that people can do to reduce crashes while they're driving around, just in general, but especially during the holiday season?
Well, there's a lot of things, you could do that could help you with those. We're always preaching, slow down, don't drive impaired, wear your seatbelt. And there's a lot of different particular things you could do that could help that. But Dave, it starts with a mindset. It's a mindset that you got to get into when you get in the vehicle. You can practice all these good practices and, try to do all the do's and don'ts and things that we tell you to, but it's mindset. When you get into a vehicle, first of all, you've got to put yourself, you've got to be somebody that's willing to share the road with other people. You have to think about more than just yourself when you drive. You got to think about your family, your friends, the folks that depend on you. You've got to think about, I don't own this road. This road, everybody out here has rights to use this road too, and it's not just about me. It's about more people around it, and it takes just a cooperative mindset that when you're out there traveling with other folks that you have to share the road with. The selfish things I do behind the wheel don't impact just me; they impact those people around me. We live in a society right now. I mean, it's been this way for a while. Everybody's just me. And we've got to think about it when we get behind the wheel, that what we do don't just affect us while we're driving. It's more than just me. It's these other folks out here that are sharing the road with, and my family back home that's dependent on me. So I would say it's a mindset that we have to get into driving more than anything. And, of course, those other practices I told you about, slowing down, not driving distracted, putting your phone down, putting your seatbelt on, all that kind of stuff. Those things help. But I think all those things flow from a mindset of, sharing the road and being responsible and thinking about what I do just does not impact just me while I'm driving.
I always turn it into a game when I'm driving because it keeps me focused and it keeps me thinking. Every vehicle I see, in my mind, I ask myself, what's the stupidest possible thing they could do, and then figure out what I'm going to do to avoid the accident when they do it. They hardly ever do it. I'm not saying they're stupid, but assume they are. It's make-believe. Pretend that they're a dingbat. What are they going to do next? Be ready for it. And that keeps you engaged and keeps you thinking about it. You mentioned putting the phone down. Is that problem getting better or worse, people using their phone while they're driving?
It's not getting any better. I can't say, for sure if it's getting worse or not. It's pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, we're going to have to get some more law. Like I said, you can legislate it and make it illegal and maybe make punishment and penalties behind it worse. But like I said, all that kind of stuff flows from that mindset I'm talking about. You're tending to yourself and your needs, and I'm bored, so I want to pick up my phone and do this or that while I'm driving. And like you said, too, also about you playing the game going down the road. We call that a defensive driving mindset. Okay, that's called defensive driving. And that's part of that mindset that you got to have as a driver out here. You got to be expecting the unexpected. when you're coming up to a intersection, you got to go ahead and expect that guy to pull out in front of you. Go ahead and slow down a little bit. Slow down. That's not going to take but about a second or two off your trip. So go ahead and slow down and anticipate that person pulling out in front of you. So when he does, you don't have one of those Maylocks moments, they like to say, and you're already anticipating and expecting it. That is a good way to drive. That's the way we're trained to drive. It's the way troopers drive, and it's it's the correct way to drive, and probably the best way to drive. So I commend you for that day for defensive driving. And we talk a little bit about that in some of our programs that we do. We go out and do our education, speak to schools and civic and public groups. Talk about what it means to be a defensive driver. But that's definitely part of that mindset that you've got to have. I mean, it's a total philosophy that you got to have when you're driving to be as safe as possible.
Well, I can't take full credit for that. I was taught that by a guy wearing that same badge when he was raising me. So yeah, that came straight. I drank straight from the source, straight from the spring. Yeah.
I was playing along there. I was hoping that was your good idea. But yeah, that's definitely a good. Yeah, that's definitely, and it's been passed down to me by the same manner that you're talking about too, through our training and other troopers. But yeah, that's the best way to drive for sure. I commend you for it though.
And of course, you would think we would reach a point where this would go without saying, but during the holidays, people get together. There's usually some of them, there are adult beverages involved, and then they get behind the wheel to drive home. You would think we would reach a point eventually where we would be able to stop saying, don't do that. But we still have to talk about that, don't we?
Still do. Some of the most, the old saying, Dave, common sense ain't so common. And the older you get, the more you see that, and the more that saying becomes a truth. But yeah, definitely that would not, that driving impaired is not conducive to being safe. People play I guess you can call it Russian roulette or whatever you want to call it, a gamble. When you do that, when you get impaired, and it's not just drinking alcohol. Now, it's become impairment through other things. Smoking marijuana is probably one of the biggest ones now. That's become very commonplace and very socially acceptable, and a lot of people don't view that as bad as alcohol. So they think it's better to smoke and get behind the wheel than it is to drink and drive. But it's all about impairment. It slows down your reaction time. Takes away your ability to be a defensive driver, which is what you should be while you're out there driving and anticipating things going on the road. But yeah, I mean, it's common sense that you would do it. There's so many different ways you can get around now, with all these different Uber and Lyft and all these kind of things. You got friends you can call. There's no reason. And I'm sure not everybody all your friend group, everybody likes to partake. So I'm sure there's somebody in there that would be glad to step up and do the right thing and be a designated driver. But that all comes back to that selfishness. I don't care about nobody but me, so I'm going to get behind the wheel and do it and take my chances, which goes back to that mindset again. You got to be considerate of others.
I think you're exactly right. Captain Criss Turnipseed, Mississippi Highway Patrol, and a busy weekend. Maybe you can have a break for a few days until it ramps back up again over there. I know. I'm trying to be positive, Captain.
Yeah, we're trying to get caught. We still keep catching up from this one, so maybe we can take a breath and we'll steer it and turn it toward the Christmas holiday. And we'll be on here ready to break that one down too. So it's the same routine every year, and this is just the next one coming up.
We appreciate you taking time out of that schedule to join us, and we'll catch up with you again at Christmas. Captain Criss Turnipseed with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. We continue.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. The Element Wealth Studios Middays on a Monday morning. Dave Hughes here, and Shopify on Cyber Monday is experiencing a partial outage. The storefronts are working fine. Customers can still buy stuff, but the people that own the stores can't log into the back end right now and change prices or check stats or do anything. So a lot of people are a little bit fired up. Shopify, it's got millions of stores, mostly small businesses, but not all. The Red Bull merchandise store, Taylor Swift's merchandise store runs on Shopify. Kylie Cosmetics, all sorts of different national businesses use that as their sales platform, and they can't do anything with it. The people that own them right now. If it's a store and you're trying to buy something through their Shopify, you won't even notice. You won't even know as of right now, as long as this problem doesn't escalate. But I think we'll probably see more websites have some kind of problem today. Now, they're saying that this isn't even related to traffic. They just goofed on the worst possible day of the year to goof with an online store platform. And it's a known issue, they said, and they're working to solve it. So just keep an eye out and see what else pops up in terms of problems online. There could very well be some, but I think we will also see, if we don't see any traffic-related outages, that'll lean into what I was talking about before we talked to Captain Turnipseed. While sales, the dollar amount of sales set a record on both Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday, the number of purchases were less because the things that were being bought cost more, which meant fewer people bought something Thursday and Friday. Store traffic was apparently down nationwide compared to last year. So fewer people shopping, but those fewer people had the money to spend more money on Thursday and Friday. If the same thing holds true for today, you won't see as many purchases. They'll just be spending more money per customer than they did last year. That's what it looks like right now. We'll see how that works out. If we see an enormous surge in the number of sales made, not the amount, not the dollar amount, but the actual number of purchases, number of customers, then we're going to have to draw back and figure out what's going on. But part of the problem is a lot of folks are living on credit right now, Rhino.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll impact the big number all that much, but I have seen I guess funny would be the right word. It's not funny for the people at Amazon that are having to deal with this, but it's funny for the consumers that caught it, because there was apparently a glitch in the Amazon online marketplace involving computers and tennis shoes sometime overnight Friday into Saturday morning, where there were computers on sale for $2 and tennis shoes on sale for 2 cents.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of snowballed on social media, and more people were sharing it, and more people were posting screenshots of, hey, it's in my cart. Hey, it went through. And then as time went on, you start seeing more and more people post pictures of, hey, it's shipped. Hey, it's on its way. So I don't know that that's going to be a large enough amount of sales or dollar amount to really move the needle, but there are some people that are enjoying the glitch on Amazon's end over the weekend.
Oh, that's fantastic. See, I wish I'd have known. They would have already delivered my 9 computers. I would have had $2 left out of that $20 bill for $2 each. That's not bad. The other thing I wonder, and this is the stat I want to wait for, the number of purchases made today and over the whole holiday period. I want to see a report how many people used a buy now, pay later plan, whether it be Afterpay or Klarna or one of those, to buy stuff, because we talk about credit and we talk about the fact that credit card delinquencies are going through the roof. Car loans are going overdue and cars are being repossessed at a very high rate right now. I have to wonder how much of the shopping is being done with one of the buy now, pay later programs, which doesn't really show up on your credit report and doesn't, at the point of sale, it's a cash purchase. So we'll have to wait and see if we see any stats on how many people use that, because people are working things in a lot of different angles. I'll put it like that. Speaking of angles, when we come back after Fox News and SuperTalk Mississippi News here on Middays, Michael Borkey joins us in the Element Well studios, and we will both try not to snarl when we say the name Lane Kiffin. That's after the news, right after this. Keep it here.
Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hour number 2 of Middays on a Monday in the Element Well studios. Dave Hughes here. I'm going to be talking to Michael Borkey in just a moment about the Kiffin situation, Kiffin Gate, if you will. That's not an accurate name for it at all, but it is what it is. I've been talking about the weather. You know, we got the potential for it to be very wet today and a big chunk of the week, in fact. It's already affecting some things. I know they had down here in Macomb and Pike County, they had the Christmas tree lighting that was scheduled. That has been canceled for today because of the weather. Coming up later this week on Friday and Saturday, they had plans, it was all set, to revive the Montapalooza Music Festival. It was going to be going on in Monticello. They have pushed it back to August. It was supposed to be this Friday and Saturday. First time in like 20 years that they've had it. It used to be a huge deal. But 2004 was the last one. They're bringing it back, but now it's going to be next year in August instead of this weekend. Again, 100% because of the weather. So keep an eye on the weather. We'll talk more about it a little bit later on. Right now, though, the one and only, the man with his finger on the pulse of Ole Miss sports. I'm selling you hard again, Borkey. Michael Borkey joins us from Sports Talk. How you doing today, sir?
There is no pulse to have a finger on anymore. I think I'm dead.
Yeah. It's it's at best on life support, I think. Of course, Lane Kiffin announced he accepted the job at LSU and immediately vacated Oxford. And I understand he got quite the send-off at the airport in Oxford when he left to go down to Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah, he did. I mean, in typical SEC football fashion, that's how it's going to go. That's nothing, though, compared to what is going to happen in Oxford next year. So Lane Kiffin left Tennessee. Now, Tennessee fans are pretending like it's the same thing. Tennessee was not a playoff team that he left before the playoff actually began back then. He just left after 1 year. Over a decade later, he returns as a coach to Neyland Stadium, and it was absolutely insane. An environment filled with hate beyond measure, mustard bottles were thrown at him, etc. LSU has to play at Ole Miss again next year, and you're probably thinking out there, wait, LSU played at Ole Miss this past year. The SEC added a conference game to the schedule starting next year, so they had to basically reinvent the schedules, and as a result, some teams are having to make return trips. Ole Miss is having to go back to Norman. They went to Norman this year. They have to go back to Norman next year. LSU, ironically enough, has to make another trip, a return trip to Oxford, and he will also, for good measure, be coaching in Neyland as well. But with not even a full calendar year gone between the departure and when he will return to Oxford, will create an environment in college football unlike anything you've seen in quite some time, if not ever.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is there even a comparable situation to this? Because let's be honest, this is a fairly unique situation that we're dealing with here with Kiffin and Ole Miss and LSU.
And it is. And, people will bring up Tommy Tuberville, Senator Tuberville. But this is different, though, because this is the first year of the playoff with this calendar being what it is, leaving an 11-1 playoff team before the season is over. The team has a game either on the 19th or the 20th of December in the college football playoff, and he has chosen, for better or for worse, to leave that. That has never happened before. We have not seen a situation go down quite like this one, and then handling it in the way in which he handled it is only enhancing the toxicity. The problem for anybody that is defending Lane in this, which there's not many, but for those that are, is you have a side-by-side example of the right way to handle this and the wrong way to handle this. John Sumrall, Tulane's coach, has been pursued by two, I would tell you three, different SEC schools trying to get his services. Tulane is poised to make the playoff, just like Ole Miss. Now, Tulane's in the American, Ole Miss is in the SEC. Different, but similar. The second it leaked a couple weeks ago that John Sumrall was set to interview with Florida, publicly he pulled himself out of the running and shut that down completely because it was taking the focus away from his football team. Now, he ended up taking the Florida job anyway, but when something got out about him and another job, he shut it down immediately and conducted himself in a way that was, hey, my team is the most important thing. We're going to finish this out. I am not about to let this open job do anything to take away from my football team, and he handled it beautifully. And as a result, he's even getting to stay and coach Tulane, and everybody respects the process in which he handled it. Lane Kiffin being pursued by two different SEC teams, and not only did he allow all of the discussion, the conversation, everything to infiltrate his football team, he fanned the flames of that. He poured gasoline on that. His family publicly visiting both Gainesville and Baton Rouge in the process, trolled his own fan base, acted like an immature child in all of this. He's an outstanding football coach. He's done incredible things at Ole Miss, but he is a chaos agent, and here's yet another messy exit, just like when he left Alabama, just like when he left Tennessee, just like when he left with the Raiders. That there is a pattern of behavior here, and unfortunately, the Ole Miss players are the ones that have to deal with the fallout the most.
Well, and I think just from the pattern of behavior, if the prop bet existed, you would put all of your money on Kiffin will have a messy exit from LSU. That's just kind of his go-to move at this point, isn't it?
I think so, and I think he's going to win a ton of football games. I mean, a ton of games at LSU because he's elite. I'm not going to do that thing that some people do where the second a coach leaves, I tell you how awful of a coach he was. You saw that in Baton Rouge. All offseason, it was Brian Kelly is going to win a championship. He's great. And then the second he gets fired, it's here's every reason why he actually was a bad coach, and we always knew that. No, Lane Kiffin's a great football coach, and he did a lot of great things at Ole Miss and won a lot of games. And I've said for weeks now, the best outcome for Ole Miss were for him to remain the coach at Ole Miss. He's that good. But the exit was a disaster, and LSU is going to be far less likely to put up with some of the antics, especially after losses, the way that Ole Miss fans were a lot more accepting of that. LSU fans will not take that. You lose to Kentucky on your home field, and then Sunday morning you're tweeting things from cutegraphics.com at your hot yoga class. They're not going to like that and appreciate that the same way that Ole Miss fans at least, rolled their eyes at and moved on.
Well, and with Kiffin making this situation worse, and I think it's inarguable that if he had just said nothing, it would have been better than the way he handled this. If he'd have just kept his mouth shut, put his phone down, and not weighed in on it and let it run wild by itself, it would have been a better outcome than what we wound up with.
There's ways for these things to operate in the shadows. How do we know? Because we've seen it time and time and time again, where coaches have been able to navigate getting pursued by other jobs and not allowing it to become a circus. John Sumrall literally just did that. I mean, he just did that right in front of everybody's face. It didn't become a circus because he didn't allow it to become one. There's a way to handle this a little bit cleaner, and he's not capable of handling things in a clean way. It's his MO. It's just who he is.
Well, and talking about, him fanning the flames, as you said, pouring gasoline on it, from what I understand, that led to a point to where if he was going to take the LSU job, they weren't going to give him the option to stick around for the bowl game. No. Once he made that decision, he was done.
Yeah, that was never going to be the case. It is just... Anybody arguing for allowing him to coach through the playoff is not understanding of what would actually be going on. Not only is it a team within your own conference, it is a rival, and signing day is Wednesday, and the tampering period has already begun. So you would be, if you being Ole Miss, you would be paying, or at least allowing, LSU's coach to be in your facility for at least 3 weeks, building his staff, building his roster. Are you sure you're going to get 100% effort into your football team on top of the fact that he is working for the quote-unquote enemy in your facility? That is an untenable, unacceptable thing that you cannot allow. Ole Miss put their foot down, and they should have. It's nonsense to expect anything other than what Ole Miss did not allow in this case.
Talking to Michael Borkey. When we come back, if you can stick around, can you stick around?
I got nowhere to be. I'm here in the palatial studios. So
let's talk about what this means for Ole Miss in the playoffs. We'll do that with Michael Borkey.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
Welcome back. SuperTalk Mississippi Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Michael Borkey from SportsTalk joining us. Now, we talked about the nonsense that went on pertaining to the way Lane Kiffin handled the entire situation over the last week and a half. He went full troll mode in the middle of it, which was exactly the wrong thing to do. Now he's gone. Where does that leave Ole Miss? The most hated 11-1 playoff-bound coach in college football history is gone. So what's the team going to do? What are they going to have to face moving forward, getting ready for the playoffs? Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the team motivationally?
Motivation and execution are two different things. The team is fired up for Pete Golding. They like Pete Golding a lot. I have confirmed over the weeks we've talked about on Sports Talk, and players did not like how he handled this. In fact, the Players Leadership Council yesterday tried to get in touch with him and talk to him, and he refused. I mean, ghosted them like a 16-year-old girl would her boyfriend. That is how that was approached, and the team didn't like it at all. They have been kind of fed up with the fact that they're having the season and everything is about anything but the actual football team as a result of their head coach. So motivationally, they'll be fine. But let's not pretend like Lane Kiffin, and if in fact Charlie Weiss Jr. goes to LSU, there's some conflicting stuff. Some people think that it's confirmed. I don't think that's confirmed as of yet. But either way, let's not pretend like Lane Kiffin's hands are not all over the offense, and that offense is the third best offense in college football in terms of yards per game. He is a mastermind at the offense. So how much impact does it have on the game planning and game day execution and adjustments? We will have to see. But to think that, no big deal at all, Lane's gone, the offense is just going to keep on humming exactly how they are, that's wishful thinking. That's not really operating in reality. They can still be good. They have great players. They can still execute and do good things. But to outright say that they're not going to miss him, I don't know about that. When it comes to the actual playoff, though, we'll basically find out tomorrow night what Ole Miss's playoff position is going to be. Now, there's another ranking after conference championships, but they have said that they don't and are not going to punish teams based on the results of conference championships. If Ole Miss is on the right side of hosting today, they'll be on the right side of hosting next week as well. At least it feels that way right now. So, what does that mean? Well, the committee does not have a sample size to go on to determine what Ole Miss will be like without Lane Kiffin. Too many people are comparing this situation to Florida State from a few years ago. That was only a 14 playoff. Florida State dropped from number 4 to number 5 and missed the playoff. They only dropped one spot, but they were without their starting quarterback. He got hurt against, I think, North Alabama. And they played 2 games without him, and they were considerably worse without him. We got to see on the field tangibly that Florida State, without Jordan Travis, worse than they were with him. We got to see that, and they fell one spot and missed the playoff. 12 teams in this one, as opposed to 4 in that one, but we're not going to get that opportunity to see what Ole Miss is without Lane Kiffin. Are they going to be worse? I'm sure your text line will tell you that people think they're going to be worse, but do you know that for sure? You don't know for sure. They haven't played without him. How much worse is the next question. Are they just a little bit or are they a lot? And then you have to quantify that. You can't just say, well, they're going to be worse, because you quite literally have to put a number on this. You are ranking the teams and seeding them for a playoff. So if they're going to be worse, how much worse are they going to be? And how can you justify putting them behind and in front of these other teams? It's a very difficult spot to be in. I wouldn't be surprised if the committee didn't really go down that road. There's been some projections today that tell you that they probably won't, but they have no sample size to go on. So they would just have to go on their feelings as opposed to the tangible results on the field. And it's uncharted territory for them, so we have no idea what they're going to do, because it's not the same as the Florida State situation. 8 more teams in this playoff, and we got to see them play without him. We don't know what Ole Miss is going to look like in the immediate without Lane Kiffin, and so the committee's in a really difficult spot.
If I'm on the committee, I immediately go into cover your own posterior mode and go by the numbers that you have and the facts that you have and use that to make your judgment in your ranking, because once you drift off into speculation, if you get it wrong, then it's your fault. If it's the numbers, well, hey, we went by the same numbers we go with for everyone else. It's just the way it worked out. That would be my prediction.
You have ground to stand on when you have something to point to. And it's something that I try my best on the show to, if I'm going to have an opinion, I want there to be tangible evidence to point to. This is why I think the way I do. And you can't have that with every opinion. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but I would much rather have something to stand on. I think this is this way because of this reason, and to be able to point to evidence to suggest that. If you're Hunter Yurchek, the chair of the committee, who is the AD at Arkansas, or Wesley Walls, who played at Ole Miss, who was actually on the committee. But if you're one of those people in the room, it would be easier to stand on hard evidence and justify a decision based on that than to make a decision, drop them out of the playoff, and say, I just kind of felt like they should have fallen because I felt like it. That's not a road you want to go down, and that's not a precedent that you want to set in this selection. So I would assume they would lean on the easier decision, which is to just stand on numbers and avoid going down the road of speculation.
Moving forward and into the playoffs, that first game in the playoffs, let me ask you this, kind of a what if, because everyone is expecting them to be noticeably worse on the field without Lane Kiffin on the sideline. We talked about that. What if they come out and they're the same or a little bit better? How does that reflect on Kiffin?
I mean, a lot of people will view that negatively, but it is a system that he installed. It is a staff that he hired. So in fairness to somebody that doesn't really deserve the fairness today, it's still, he would have his fingerprints all over the football program. And so, I mean, LSU is going to pay his incentives for winning playoff games. I don't know if you saw that, but LSU has decided, even though he won't be coaching Ole Miss anymore, if Ole Miss wins a playoff game, whatever his bonus would have been, they're going to pay it, which is odd to me, but that's what they're going to do.
Bribery, isn't it?
I mean, it's very odd that they're choosing to do that. But no, I mean, it's still his program. It's his players, and it was his program. But the staff there is the staff that he hired. The players there are the ones that, when he was the coach, they signed. And so, it depends on how you want to spin it. You can either spin it as Ole Miss didn't need him anyway, or spin it as, look at what Kiffin created. It's just up to you to decide what angle you want to take.
Well, and I understand, I saw a report earlier that they're having a press conference today, Kiffin is, to introduce some of his staff, and had told some of the offensive staff, you better already be on a plane headed here or you're not going to make it. Are there going to be any surprises when he does announce his staff, you think?
No. No, everybody that will be announced today is well known. I mean, Ole Miss has already made it clear who decided to stay behind, and so anybody from the Ole Miss perspective is already known is with him down there.
What about Ed Orgeron?
That's a good question. I mean, I know they have a relationship. And I know he'd be very good as like a defensive line coach. There were things that Ed Orgeron did on his way out at LSU that if I were somebody that were giving money to LSU, I would not welcome him back. That's just my opinion. I know he's good, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're good and you win games. Nobody cares at all. But the way he conducted himself at the end of his tenure at LSU I wouldn't welcome him back. Less so, but it would be in the same ballpark as Ole Miss bringing Hugh Freeze back. When you do some of the things that he did on the way out the door, I don't want you at my institution anymore.
Yeah, don't even slow down when you drive by. We don't want your stink on campus anymore. And I think that's kind of the sentiment in Oxford right now in general. And same thing with LSU. Having said that, Kiffin and Orgeron actually coached together earlier in their careers, I believe. So It could be that Kiffin might go to bat for him. He's kind of the golden boy in Baton Rouge right now.
He
might
is right
get
now.
his way.
Absolutely, he is right now.
So it'd be interesting to see. Michael Borkey, Sports Talk this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Gee, I wonder what you'll be talking about today.
Basketball.
Yeah, it's basketball time. Let's just forget all this nonsense. I appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you so much for the insight on this.
Anytime.
We continue in the Element Wealth Studios on Middays right after this. Keep it here.
From the Seabrook.com.
Get on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert
It is on.
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It's Monday. Who could possibly be dancing on a Monday? Not me. We're a dance-free zone on the show on this Monday here in the Element Wealth Studios. The dance floor lights are off and will remain so to conserve energy. I don't know if you've seen right now about the Supreme Court, what it's considering today, the piracy case. This is an interesting situation. Here's why I say that. This case has made it all the way to the Supreme Court, and what basically it is, to try to sum it up, motion picture industry, the recording artist industry, all band together and started suing internet service providers because their users were using their internet service to pirate movies and songs. Well, they want the internet service providers to have to pay up big damages. This seems like a slippery slope to me if you allow that to go through. Are we going to start blaming the guy that built the road every time there's a car accident? Somebody commits phone fraud, we going to sue the phone provider? It just seems like you can't blame the maker of the hammer if he uses it to hit somebody in the head, which to me kind of feels like the fundamental issue that they're talking about here. And I'm not sure I'm on board with it. Piracy, yeah, go after them. We've got laws against that. Go get them. No problem. But it just seems like we're trying to drag in a third party here that, honestly, there's only so much they can do to prevent it. And if this is decided in the copyright holder's favor, we could see a whole lot of the world change when it comes to the internet and the way it's used right now, Rhino.
Yeah, it would be one thing if it were a case going after a server farm or whatever that is hosting pirated content knowingly versus an internet service provider allowing for peer-to-peer transfer. And the sad thing is, I don't trust anybody in the federal government, from the top to the bottom, to have a better or a good enough understanding of the difference between those two to regulate or enact law based on it. Because if you do start going after the internet service providers, you're getting into secondary liability, and that becomes a pretty slippery slope quickly.
Well, the problem is, and by the way, I agree with you, because when it comes to the capacity of the 206-year-old members of the federal government to understand any of this, because you got to remember, the internet is a series of tubes. It was said out loud in the halls of Congress on the floor. They're not going to understand this. They don't understand this issue. They're not going to be able to fully grasp exactly what it means.
And it doesn't help that our copyright laws are not the best for the age of the internet, especially when you look at other laws in the same, like you look at patent law. You come up with a great idea to a problem, the most efficient solution to a problem, and the patent office, if you patent your solution, gives you a certain period of time. I want to say it's 7 years for some, 17 for others, something like that. Yeah. But you have a limited amount of time where you are granted a monopoly on that solution. And then once that monopoly time is up, everybody can then utilize that solution. When you compare that to copyright, where Mickey Mouse has been copyrighted for long after it should have gone into public domain because we keep changing the laws at the Disney lobbyist behest, you run out of that innovation. That's why you see Hollywood constantly regurgitating ideas. One, they're out of ideas, and two, they're trying to hang on to that IP copyright. Whereas there isn't any avenue for that if you have an actually good solution to a problem facing everyday average people through patent law.
To me, the whole thing, and again, they're hearing the arguments today at the Supreme Court. They're not issuing a ruling, I don't think. It's just today, and then later on a normal opinion issuance day, they'll put it out. This is very similar to a different argument of a completely different type that we have heard for quite a long time now, which is that people don't kill people, it's the guns. We got to get all the guns. Those guns are killing people. We keep hearing the term gun violence as if that's a special category of killing somebody. If you beat their head in with a baseball bat, well, that's different. No, it's the person swinging the bat or pulling the trigger, not what they used to do it. It's the same principle when it comes to this copyright, to me anyway, that you would use to go sue a gun manufacturer because somebody used something they made to kill someone else. In 2005, they passed a law in Congress, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, that gave a whole ton of immunity to gun manufacturers from getting sued because of what's done with the product they create. It seems like that could almost be pulled in from the side as somewhat of an adjacent precedent to this. To say, hey, well, we already have one law on the books that says you can't blame somebody, you can't blame a company for how its customers use its product. That's boiling down literally what that law said. In 2005, 20 years ago, by the way, that was passed. I would hope that we would go the same way with this, because at that point, I don't even know how the internet as we know it would function if you can do that. In some places, I do know one of the big ISPs, Cox, they're trying to get $1 billion out of them. They're one of the parties in this lawsuit that's up in front of the Supreme Court. And they have said, if it's ruled in their favor, we'll go bankrupt, and a whole lot of people around the country will no longer have internet at all. You want to see an economic impact as we sit here and discuss this on Cyber Monday? Let that happen. Having said that, there's right and there's wrong. I get that. I just think this is wrong from every angle that you can look at it from. I mean, am I missing something here? This seems fairly cut and dried to me, but it's made it all the way up to the Supreme Court because, well, reasons.
No, I think you're pretty much dead on, because piracy in and of itself, like you said, we have laws against it. We have copyright laws. We have protections for the holders of intellectual properties. But we also live in a seemingly increasingly smaller and smaller digital world, and not all countries abide by our laws. So if you're an ISP and one of your end users decides to connect to a server in a country that doesn't give a rip about copyright laws and watch a movie that's still in theaters, is it really the ISP's fault?
Well, according to the motion picture industry and the recording industry, yes. Yes, it is. Please write us a check right now.
That's mainly because they can only really go after the ISP because it's bad PR to go after. We saw this with Napster. All the bad PR that Metallica got when they were suing Grandma because the grandson downloaded a couple songs, and now Grandma, because it was on her internet, is getting sued for thousands of dollars. It was just bad PR. So they're not going after the end user. They can't go after the foreign entities who they're hosting the server farms. The only person they can go after is the ISP. So they're just trying to get blood from a stone, it seems.
Well, it's called piracy. When they caught a pirate, did they go after the guy that built the boat or made his cutlass?
No.
No! You go after the pirate. Or you just leave it alone. That's kind of your two options. This is the equivalent of going to get the guy that sold him that boat, who built it and sold it, so that he could go out there and commit all these crimes. We got to get that boat maker. He needs to give us some doubloons. That's stupid. just like this case is to me. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be a long, intricate argument, and we're going to somehow manage to wind up worse off than we are now because that's the way it seems things are going these days. Final segment on the short, stubby little Monday edition of Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. On the way next. Keep it here.
Poly up of Mississippi.
Are we going to do this? Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
So don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time. Having a good time. I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity. I'm a racing car passing by like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me.
Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi. Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes here. Man, just announced it a little while ago that the United Kingdom and the U.S. have agreed to a 3-year pause on tariffs, specifically on pharmaceuticals. Now, this, if you ask me, has been one of the major points, if not the point of the whole tariff thing from the word go. Listen to this. Here's the deal. The U.S. announced that they're doing away, it's going to be 0% tariff on UK originating pharmaceuticals, ingredients, and medical technology. No import taxes on those, bringing them from the UK into the U.S. In return for that, drug firms in the United Kingdom have committed to invest about 25% more in new treatments. It's the first major increase in that kind of spending in over 20 years. Why? Because here in America, with our inflated drug costs and healthcare costs, we have been funding the development of all the medications and all the medical devices and technology and everything else. Now the UK, in order to get rid of the tariffs, is chipping in 25% more than they have been, the first time in over 20 years that they have increased their spending into research and development in this area. That's a win for us because the more money other people put into the medical field to fund the development of these things, the less we have to. Now, does that mean it's going to go down here? Welcome to the planet. Glad to have you. First day, huh? Yeah, no. But it's still a good thing, and I think it can lead to good results as we move forward. That was just announced just a little while ago, and apparently First Lady Melania Trump has revealed the Christmas decorations at the White House. Countdown to the liberal meltdowns over them in 5, 4. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. She's going to have done something that was absolutely horrific in the eyes of, right now, let's just call them what they are, whack jobs. We have some people on the left side of the spectrum out at the far end that could not have less contact with reality. They're just not dialed in. Nor are they going to be. So quit, expecting that. And also, I know you talk about this sometimes, Bitcoin still sliding. It's now below $85,000 per Bitcoin today. Two things there. Number one, just like stocks, it goes up and down. Except for stocks here lately have been mostly just up, 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 up. That has a ceiling, by the way. Everything does. Sooner or later we'll hit it, and then the sky will be falling and the world will be over. If you listen to what you're told and take it in. And then we will rebuild and move on. But 85,000, how long ago was it, Rhino? You might know this off the top of your head, that you could buy a Bitcoin for like, $5,000. Was not that long ago.
To get down to 5,000, you got to go back to probably pre-COVID. I think it might have dipped down to that price point sometime in 2019.
So 6, 7, 8 years. If I told you right now, if you give me $5,000 and in 10 years I'm going to hand you back 85,000, would you even hesitate?
Probably
but this
not.
This is a tragedy because it's down to 85,000. Oh my goodness, we're all in trouble now. This is a problem. If you bought it early, and by early we're talking less than 10 years ago, you have made a massive return on it if you sell it right this second while it's down. I'm not really sure that we're back in the territory of it being a bad idea to have invested in it. For better or worse, I'll leave that as an exercise to you. Coming up next, we've got Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews right after Fox News and Super Talk Mississippi News. Enjoyed it, my friend. Rhino, take care of yourself, and we'll hopefully do this again soon.
Oh, yeah.
Element Well Studio. Always a lot more fun, by the way, when you don't take a day off when I'm here. That seems to accidentally happen all the time. News on the way next. Keep it here.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.